number 1. Time has to be in. Okay, before prayer, you have to make sure the time is in. Purification of yourself, you have to make wudu. Purification of place and clothes. Your clothes and where you pray have to not have any najasa on them. If they do have najasa on them, and you discover this in the prayer, simply move that najasa off. If it's a garment like a jacket, you could just take the jacket off if your body is still covered. If it's on your shoe, you just take your shoe off in the middle of the prayer. If it's on your mat, you just move over in the middle of the prayer. And then number 2, Jessica? Good, Qibla. You have to be facing the Qibla. You have to really, Sharia you don't require to face it, you're required to put out an effort to find it. Okay? 2 Sahaba were traveling at night, and it was too cloudy to determine the Qibla. So each one estimated what they thought was the Qibla, and they made arrows in the sand in the direction of their prayer. They then woke up the next day and found out they were both wrong about the direction of the prayer. So they went back to the Prophet, peace be upon him, that day, and they explained to him what happened, and he accepted their prayer as it was because they put the effort out. Okay? You got to put the effort. In the middle of your prayer, if you discover that the Qibla is wrong, someone turns you, or you turn yourself in the middle of the prayer. If you finish your prayer and you realize the Qibla was wrong, then ask yourself, is the prayer time still in? If the answer is yes, then repeat the prayer. If that prayer is out, then you do not need to repeat the prayer. Okay? So I prayed Isha in the wrong Qibla. I went somewhere else and they told me, or someone came and they said, no, this Qibla is wrong. It's this way. What do? I repeat the prayer so long as Isha is still in. All right, 5 Salat times. Anna. Dhuhr. When is the sign that Dhuhr is in and out? Good. Once the zenith, at the zenith, basically the top, the Dhuhr is in. And then there are 2 opinions about when Dhuhr is out. Either the shadow is equal the object of its length or double. All right, the dominant opinion is that the shadow equals the object of its length. Now, one note here, equals the object of the length along with the shadow that exists when the sun is at the zenith. Now, it's a bit confusing, but the only area of the earth in which when the sun is at the zenith, the objects have no shadow is at the equatorial region. Okay? The equatorial region. The objects there will be no shadows at that moment because the sun is directly above the object. However, if we're in the northern hemisphere, when the sun is at the zenith of the horizon, there is a slight shadow. Okay? So that's the default shadow. Now you need to add that length to the object's length, right? To the object, to know that the Dhuhr is out. But anyway, in summary, abstract is that the shadow equals the length of the object. All right, and Anna, for Maghrib, when is Maghrib in?
Sunset to disappearing.
Good. So after the sun has already set, the instant that you don't see the sun on the horizon anymore, Maghrib is in. Maghrib is out when you can't see any light on the western horizon. If you could still see any light, colors or anything on the western horizon where the sun sets, Maghrib is out and Isha is in. Remember, Maghrib is the only prayer that does not have an expansive time in the actual prayer itself. So when Maghrib comes in, we are sinful if we delay Maghrib. Whereas Dhuhr, there's an expansive time. You could pray and you're not sinful. But Maghrib prayer, we're actually carry a sin if we do anything besides prayer when Maghrib comes in. The prayer will still be valid, but we're sinful for delaying it. Whereas in all the other prayers, it's merely frowned upon to delay the prayer. All right, prohibited times of prayer. Lena. Good. After Fajr and after Asr, these are the traditional times that the pagans used to pray to the sun, so the Prophet forbade us to pray at that time. 4 causes of lesser ritual impurity. Mi'raj.
said anything that comes from the private part.
Anything that comes from the front or the back, plus a lot of blood or vomit. Sorry, not vomit, a lot of blood. Just a lot of blood. If you lose a lot of blood, it requires wudu. If you just lose a little bit of blood, it's okay. But anything that comes from the front or the back breaks your wudu. All right, number 7. Miraj?
Sorry. Okay, so I don't really know what.
The answer to this? Who knows the answer to this? Good. Loss of consciousness through heavy sleep or fainting. Lose wudu. There's only one type of sleep. There are 2 types of sleep that don't cause you to lose your wudu. Right? The light sleep, where you can actually still hear people, right? But you're asleep. If you know that light sleep, really light sleep, that doesn't cause you to lose your wudu. Also, the middle sleep sitting down. If you're sitting on a plane and you have a good sleep, but not so heavy, right? Like you didn't sleep for 2 hours in a row. That light sleep or middle sleep, sitting down, it's impossible to lose your wudu while sitting down, even if you're asleep. So those are 2 exceptions. The next one, touching the male organ with the inside of the house or entrance of fingers into female organ. 8, touching. In what case is touching? Rahil, you know this one? Good. If pleasure is intended or derived. Okay? Pleasure is intended or derived. Three kinds of water. All right. Who has the answer to that? Let's go to Ridwana. 3 kinds of water.
Pure that purifies. I have here. Taher.
Or tahur. So I gave you the kind. Now you give me the description of it. What is the description of it?
So that's just a water that we can make wudu with.
Good. And what's the condition of that?
It's not changed in
Color or
smell, color,
taste. Smell, color, and taste haven't changed. Okay. And this discounts minerals, additions of minerals. Like you might taste like a type of tap water or just that's the way the tap water tastes, right? Or a mineral water, and that's just how the water tastes. That's discounted from here. All right, number 10. What's the name of that type of water? Or the description of it?
So I guess you gave the description.
Mm-hmm.
I gave the name that I have is Tahir.
Tahir, good. And in English, what is Tahir?
So that's still pure water.
Uh-huh.
But it has been altered to a pool water.
Good. So what's the real purpose of this breakdown of water? That type of water. What's the implication regarding the prayer?
That we can pray with.
Good. So if that water is on you, is your jacket is soaked with it, or your clothes is soaked with that fluid that is altered taste, color, and smell, but there's nothing impure about it, then you could pray with that water on you, or with that fluid on you. Okay? Someone has a big stain of coffee or milk or tea on his pants, that does not disqualify his prayer at all. In contrast to the najis water, that's what renders our prayer invalid. Okay, you have najasa on your clothes, skin, or place of prayer. That whole prayer is invalidated. All right, let's go to 7 obligations of wudu. Okay, Miraj.
So you have to be using the right? Is that what you want to know?
Say again. The 7 obligations of wudu.
Use the word. No. Oh, okay. So then hands. Right. Hands.
Arms, fingertips to arms. That would be number 12. What's number 11? The first thing that you have to do.
The intention.
Intention. Good. You have to make the intention. See, not all acts of worship in Islam require intention, right? Let's take an example. What act of worship in Islam does not require your intention in order for it to be valid? Does anyone know? Huh?
To make dua.
Fasting outside of Ramadan. You can make the
Well,
intention
you can make the intention that day, but you still have to make the intention. There's an act in Islam. There's one of the pillars of Islam. Close, very close. Zakah. Zakah is valid without intention. You won't get rewarded. You might not get rewarded, but it's valid. So what does that mean? How could you do something without intention? Well, zakah, if the state zakah collector comes to your farm every year and audits your animals for you, right? And let's say the farmhand shows him where all the animals are, then he looks at the chart and says, okay, you have this many camels, this many sheep, this many cows, this many goats, all right? Then I need to take this, and this, right? And then he goes and he takes them. And you come home that day and you say, well, what happened today? And your farmhand tells you, the zakat collector came and took this many sheets and here's the receipt, right? You did not intend to give that zakah, right? It's still valid, right? You don't get the reward unless you intend it. And you could retro intend it. You could say, okay, good, so I intend that to be for Allah's sake, right? But the point is that zakah is the only, I'm pretty sure it's the only act of worship that is valid without any intention, okay? Let's say you have a savings account and it's basically set on auto that whatever wealth has been there for a year, 2.5% is withdrawn after a year, right? You can easily make a software that does that, right? So you're a rich guy and you don't pay zakah ever. The zakah just comes out of your bank account, right? Like an automatic deposit or automatic withdrawal. You never made any intention, but on the day of judgment, it counts that you did it, all right? Valid. So that's zakah. But wudu requires intention, face, arms, fingertips to arms, hair, wiping, feet to ankles, especially the heels. What's number 13? Who knows? This is not a body part. Dua, no, those are all sunnahs.
You can't interrupt the wudu by taking.
Okay, well that's continuity. That's good. That's there. Rubbing. Why did the early Imams and the people of Medina say this, right? They said this to make sure that you got all of your body part, right? Let's say if your arms, you just run your arm under the tap. How do you really know where the water got, right? So you need to actually move it there with your hand, okay? You're doing your face. If you just splash the water on your face, how are you sure your whole face got washed? You need to move it there with your fingers, okay? With your hands. All right, how to do tayammum? Who wants to raise their hand and give this one? You know? Okay.
Twice.
2 taps on the ground. Okay. Okay, twice rub your face, or once rub your face. That's sufficient. And then what? Then tap again, and then just do your arms. Simple as that. And in this case, you do not need to make sure that you got every inch, because this is symbolic. So tayammum, you're not going to go and leave tayammum with the face covered in dirt, right? This is not the purpose of tayammum. So you're going to rub your hands twice on the dirt, hit them together to make sure any big parts come off, and then just gently rub your face. Now, tayammum can also be done with a rock, in which case nothing will come on your hands or on your face. In West Africa, tayammum is a very big deal because these are nomads who could go for a whole day without water, several times a week, right? And they'll only be using the water for drinking, right? And they have permission by the Prophet, peace be upon him, if your water is solely for drinking, make tayammum, right? So if you're a soldier and you're out there and you got that one little little canteen that they show in the Vietnam and the World War II movies, okay? You got that little canteen around your chest, right? You're not going to make wudu with that water. You die of thirst. You drink and you make tayammum. And Prophet, peace be upon him, said that to the companions. Yeah. Yes, it shouldn't be anything that the human being has come upon and changed. For example, a brick. Brick is just soiled mud that they cooked it, basically, right? So we wouldn't use a brick. You'd want to use something natural. Anything natural. Yeah, same thing. Let's say you're a soldier in the middle of the desert or in the middle of the jungle and there's no water and you had a wet dream that night. What are you supposed to do? You make tayammum. Yeah, that's it. Tayammum, you can't carry tayammum from one prayer to the next. So you can't make tayammum and say, okay, I didn't go to the bathroom, so I'm going to pray the next prayer too. Every prayer you have to make tayammum. And you cannot pray Jumu'ah with tayammum, okay? The reason being is that if you're praying Jumu'ah, you are in a massive masjid, right? Or you're in a masjid with locals. If that's the case, there should be water at hand. So Jumu'ah is not accepted with tayammum. Remember, tayammum is not just the traveler who doesn't have water, the sick, the ill, or someone who broke his leg who can't reach water. Or if water is blocked by a dog or a lion or a bobcat, or if you're in a dangerous area and you don't want to step out of your car and go into the gas station, you're just scared for your life, okay? You can make tayammum. So everyone should have in their car, you should have a bottle of water, a straw mat, a soft mat, and why do you need a straw mat and a soft mat? Because if it's wet out, that little prayer mat that they sell us, right? That's going to get soaked. So you need a straw mat, and on top of that, put the regular prayer mat. Straw mat's pretty rough. And then you need to get yourself something to do tayammum with, right? Such as in Mauritania, they go around carrying a rock, okay? They'll have a rock in their satchel because they always come upon no water. Any other questions on tayammum? All right, now let's go. The 4 prohibitions on clothes, okay? Both genders, clothes cannot be tight. Tight, in other words, showing the shape of a person's thighs and rear end and chest and whatnot. 15, it must not be what else? See-through, okay? Cannot be see-through material. It must not be excessively bright so as to attract attention. And of course, at this point, it's relative. If you go to Saudi Arabia, if a woman in Saudi Arabia or Iraq or one of these places, maybe not Iraq, if you're a woman and you're in Saudi Arabia, if you're wearing navy blue, it's bright, okay? Because they all wear black. If you go to the stores in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the Gulf states, I'm amazed at how these stores run businesses. You go to the stores, the full thing is called abaya. That's what they like to wear. Black abaya. Black abaya with the white stripe. Black abaya with white buttons. Black abaya with red buttons. Black abaya with a little gold trim. It's all one type of garment that's just adorned differently. That's their culture. If a Kuwaiti girl or a Qatari girl, right, a local, wears anything besides a black abaya, it's questionable. It's like, why? That's just how their culture is, right? Just like in the West, most of the world, if a man goes to work without not wearing pants, if you go to work in, if you go to corporate America in orange pants, or anything besides black, navy blue, gray, or brown pants, you're looked at as odd, right? So that's how they are. Everything is black. So it's culturally, it's relative. Here, it's different. You could wear orange and it's not necessarily standing out. So there's some cultural relativity there. Lastly, it must not have what? Holes. Clothes with holes was discussed early in the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, And also you can add to that holes and noise-making beads or what have you, such that when you walk, you're making noise and attracting attention. So holes and anything that making noise or whatnot. What are those called? What are these things called? Oh, those things? Well, maybe those will pass, but some of these clothes that have beads that are hitting against each other and making noise all the way down the aisle or something. So these are prohibitions upon both genders. Okay. The imagery, we would say that such clothes with imagery is probably frowned upon, and I would only venture to say that if it is a full creature, right, or a human face, then a person should cover up for the prayer, right? So what is prohibited is the image or the of the full creature. If it's just like a tiger face, it's actually not forbidden or anything. If it's a full animal, then it's questionable. Definitely in the realm of statues. Like in the realm of statues, what's prohibited? The statue that is a full creature, like a complete horse. But if it's just the chest and the face of a horse, that's not forbidden. Okay? It's frowned upon. Okay, so we should make the distinction between what's forbidden and what's frowned upon. What's forbidden is the complete creature, either as a statue. Okay, in terms of drawings, it's frowned upon to have anything like that in your prayer. And human images like Bob Marley smoking or weed or something, okay, is definitely, it should be covered in the prayer.
When people get those jeans that have like a thread showing, it's probably better not to.
Yeah, that's part of clothes with holes, right? Clothes with holes in them such that I'm not looking at you, but I could see what kind of skin you have under there. That's actually from the forbidden categories. Okay. Speaking of t-shirts, the name of Allah on t-shirts. Verses of Quran on t-shirts. Is it permissible? It's permissible. However, there is something prohibited about it, namely going to the bathroom with it. Okay. Sometimes you see the Muslim Student Association of colleges, they'll make a t-shirt and they'll put a verse of Quran on the back. Right? What do we tell such students? You got to wear a sweatshirt over that when you go to the bathroom. You cannot go to the bathroom with that exposed on your t-shirt. Right? And you can't sleep on the floor with that exposed on your t-shirt. Basically, we should stay away from putting Quran everywhere that could be disrespected. Another thing that got popular in the past, putting Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim on your car top of windshield or the back windshield of the car. Well, looks good, but birds could come and defecate on that, right? So it's best to be avoided. Like, your religiosity doesn't need to be cheapened in that respect, all right? Cheapened in that respect. Okay.
What about weather? Like if it snows or rain? It rains on there.
Same thing as graves. If you have a gravestone, the gravestone that's flat, firstly, all graves, it's preferred, Sunnah of the Prophet is to make it flat, not to erect something tall. Why? Because A, it's a waste of money, the person's dead. Secondly, it makes class distinctions. It makes for class distinctions, okay? Now, in contrast though, the Ottoman government in the past, they had actually sponsored every graveyard. There was a type of tombstone put on every graveyard. Every man got a pillar and a hat based on his profession, right? Based on his profession. If a woman had a profession, she got the hat too. If she didn't have a profession, she had a flower, a rose for every child that she had. So in that case, it was equal. Everyone got a stone. But still, for our purposes, the putting up stones, it creates class distinction and is frowned upon. if it's flat, if its tombstone is flat and you have a wood or marble thing, you also should not put a verse of Quran on it. Someone could walk on it. An animal could come and walk on it. A bird could defecate on it. It's just not the place for the divine word. All right, let's go to 2 preconditions of the traveler's prayer. Jessica, do you have the answer to this? Or should we pass it to Rahil? Rahil?
48 miles.
Okay, good. The journey has to pass 48 miles. And what's the first part? Huh? Good. The journey has to be for a permissible purpose. And you might think, well, what is that? Well, of course a journey could have an impermissible purpose. A guy who's traveling down to Atlantic City to gamble, right? And you don't think this happens? Happens all the time. Many Muslims think if you're gambling for pennies at the small level, then it's halal, right? But we say, no, if it's haram to gamble for thousands of dollars, it's also haram to gamble for pennies. It might not be as harmful, but it is because it creates, today they know that gambling is really a addictive behavior. So they get you on the penny gambling for nickels and dimes, you get addicted and then you go to the real thing. All right, last thing, sunnahs before and after the obligations. What's before Fajr? Someone blurted out. 2 to 4 before Dhuhr. What's after Dhuhr? We're talking all the sunnahs, not just the confirmed ones. 2 to 4. 2 to 4 before Asr. What's after Maghrib? 2 to 6. 2 after Isha. 2 to 10 as Shafa. And then 1 as Witr. All right, good. Any questions before we move on to chapter 46? All right, good. All right, Rahil, read for us chapter